Have you been thinking about making the move to the Phoenix metro area and you're deciding on whether or not you want to purchase a resale home or a new home? Well, in today's video, I'm going to be going over the pros and cons of each of those and how to make sure that you're picking the right one for you and your family. If that's something that you're interested in, go ahead and keep on watching. First, I want to go over the definition essentially, or my definition of a resale home and a new home. A new home is going to be when you purchase directly from a builder. A resale home is going to be purchasing from a person just like me and you, and that doesn't necessarily mean it has to be an old home either. It's just going to be something that's a normal person has purchased and now they're deciding to sell versus a builder like Taylor Morrison, Richmond American, so on and so forth. So I think that's the first thing that we need to know if you're hopping into this video and kind of deciding between the two. If you're trying to make this decision, I'm sure you understand why it is very, very hard to make this decision, because resale homes, there's so many pros and so many cons, and same thing for new homes. Granted, I do sell a lot of new homes, so maybe I'm slightly biased on this just because, well, I'll tell you guys whenever we get into the actual pros and cons, because I think that there's a reason why a lot of people are purchasing new homes, but I could definitely see there are some major things that new homes don't have, why you would obviously be purchasing a resale home. So let's go ahead and get started in our first section. We're gonna be talking about the pros of a new home. Like I said, I do sell a lot of new homes. I've sold both, but there is a ton of really great pros when it comes to new homes. Doesn't mean it works for everybody. First pro is going to be everything is new. If you are one of those people that get kind of a little bit like grossed out by somebody else living in your house, or like, let's say it had carpet. If you're one of those type of people, I totally get that. I purchased a new home and you know, it's all good and dandy, and maybe I just had to clean up a couple things and it was all good to go, versus when I purchased my resale home, you know, somebody else lived in there. I really had to get scrubbed and professionally cleaned, and it's just kind of like you have to make it your own versus a new home. That is one of the really amazing pros, is it's brand new and it's never been lived in, and you could really make it everything that you want it to be. Or even just down to like, no one's hit the baseboard with a chair, or no one's kids have colored on the walls, or the fridge has never been used and it's spotless, things along those lines. I think it's just kind of like nice to have. It's definitely not a must have, but I think it's super, super nice. And one of the reasons why I purchased a new home, I just didn't want to have to deal with fixing anything or literally doing anything. I just wanted it to be moved in and pretty much perfect. Of course, these homes are man-made, so there's going to be things that have to be fixed regardless, but at least I know that the builder's going to take care of that and I don't have to worry about it. And yeah, no one's dog has peed on my carpet. Things along those lines. Another huge pro is the customization. So there's actually going to be two different types of new homes that I'm going to tell you guys about in this video here. I'm not going to go into depth on this video about what these are, the pros and cons of each of those necessarily. I might mention something here and there, but if you want to watch my video at the very end of this video, I'll tag it. It's going to be all about new homes, what kind of new homes you can pick from, the incentives, everything that you need to know literally about those new homes. I'll go ahead and attach that video at the end so you guys can watch that. But for the sake of this video, you have a new home where you're going to be picking the lot. I like to call those dirt builds. Or you're going to be picking a home that is a spec home where all the specifics have been picked out from the builder. So when we're talking about our next pro, which is customization, you cannot customize a spec home. Those have already been picked out. You can't do anything about that. When we're talking about a dirt build, that's when you go into the design center, you go into your electrical appointment, you pick the lot, you pick literally everything that goes into that home, which is a huge pro for a lot of people, especially let's say this is your last home. Let's say this is going to be like your pretty much forever home until you retire and don't need a, 3,000 square foot single story home. This is going to be something that a lot of people want to do because they want to pick out everything. Especially a lot of the times, like these spec homes and resale homes, they're not maybe up to like everyone's perfect standards. So whether that be, let's say you really love the flat skim coat that goes onto some of the walls, I could guarantee you that's going to be in probably Almost no spec homes that a builder picks is gonna have that option in it because it is so expensive to add. So keep that in mind. But regardless, that could be something that you wanted to do because you always wanted it and you loved it. And now you're not seeing it in any of the homes. Customizing it to exactly what you want would be perfect. You love the big old fancy 5-inch, 6-inch baseboards that are super modern. You love the square corners. You love 12-foot ceilings, right? Like all of these things that you may not be able to find, or at least you don't have a lot of options when we're talking about spec homes or even resale homes. You can customize literally everything about a new home. You want the lot to be north-south facing. You want it to be east-west facing. You want to have a pie-shaped lot so you could build a really cool pool, jacuzzi, ramada, turf, something really awesome for your kids and your family. Then you can do that. Versus if you're at the mercy essentially of what's on the market, you may not be able to find that. Next thing that is a huge pro and why I think a lot of my clients are picking new homes is going to be the builder incentive. So going back to dirt lots and spec homes are going to be having the absolute best incentives. That is where you see the 4.75% interest rate, or you see a 1.99, 2.99, 3.99. Those are usually tied to homes that are ready quicker rather than picking a dirt lot where it takes 6 to 8 months to build. But regardless, you're still going to get an incentive no matter which one you pick. So if you decide to do a dirt lot, you're still typically going to get anywhere between 3 and 6% in incentives. And that's where essentially the seller, AKA Taylor Morrison, for example, is going to give you that money so you can put it towards buying down your rate, or you can put it towards design options at the design gallery. There's a couple different ways you can utilize that money. Or again, if you decide to do the spec homes, that's where you're typically going to have the most incentives, where maybe you'll have a 4.75% interest rate. That's what I got on my own personal home, but I've helped clients get 3.99s, 2.99s. It's actually kind of insane on what type of deals you can get on these new homes. So if you're looking to have the lowest interest rate possible, a new home will definitely be the option, and specifically a spec home. It's funny, and I want to mention this to you guys so you can kind of get an idea of how dramatic the interest rate can make your payment. It really is a make or break for a lot of people. So for example, when I was looking to purchase a new home, I was only looking at new homes, and I was specifically looking at spec homes because I really wanted a good interest rate where I could keep my payment down to like a decent, reasonable amount. I mean, nothing is necessarily reasonable in this type of market, but definitely helps a significant amount when we're talking about payments. So I was looking at spec homes. The interest rate on this house that I wanted was a 4.75% interest rate. I was like, okay, perfect. I talked to the lender. Everything was good to go. I was still thinking about it. And as I was thinking about it, somebody went ahead and snatched it up. Unfortunately, I didn't move quick enough. I didn't take my own advice when it comes to buying homes. So anyways, that's fine. Everything happens for a reason. I went ahead and asked the lender to give me a quote on if I decided to do a new home where I pick everything the dirt build, right? Although it didn't really fit with my timeline, I knew it would be a little bit more expensive. I really love this floor plan, so I was just kind of getting numbers on that. And it was going to be almost $1,000 more a month for me to get a new build dirt situation versus a spec home, which is just absolutely insane. Definitely not in my own personal budget. Even if it was in my budget, not an option for me. I would not be wanting to do that personally. Again, this isn't going to be my forever home. For people that are picking forever homes, the money that you're willing to invest might be slightly different than mine. So everyone's slightly different, right? So just keep that in mind. But those are kind of the differences on incentives when it comes to a spec home and a dirt build. Next, huge pro, and I think, in my opinion, one of the more important things we have to keep in mind when we're talking about new homes is the low maintenance kind of situation. There are some big things that you have to keep in mind when purchasing a new home. And I'm going to, of course, go over the cons of these new homes as well. But low maintenance, when I'm talking about that, I mean, you don't have to get a new roof. You don't have to get a new hot water heater. You don't have to get new AC units. I mean, each AC unit could be $15K minimum, right? So these things really, really add up. And if you're a first-time home buyer, or even if I'm not a first-time home buyer, and I would definitely not want to be dropping $15K for a roof, $15K for one AC unit, a couple thousand, maybe $2,000, probably a little bit less for a hot water heater. That's a lot of money, and it's definitely not something I'm willing to spend on a home that I literally just bought. So again, depending on you and what your tolerance is for these homes, that might not be something that you guys want to do. And if you don't have tons of money to put into a home as soon as you move in, a new home will definitely allow you to not have to worry about all those big ticket items. Okay, cons of a new home. Timing. So timing is an important one. And it depends on whether you pick a spec home, where those homes are typically ready in 30 days, but they don't have everything that you would possibly want. But if you decide that you want to customize everything, a new home would typically be what you decide to move forward on, right? But those take 6 to 8 months. When, let's say, you could go ahead and buy a resale home in the perfect area, perfect floor plan, everything that you ever wanted, gut it, do everything that you wanted to do, and then you're ready to move in 30 to 60 days, right? Like, these are the type of things that we have to keep in mind when we're talking about the differences between these two and how you're going to decide on whether or not you want to pick a resale home or a new home. Timing on a new build is not ideal for everyone, and one of the reasons why I never wanted to buy an actual new build dirt situation, because I'm so impatient. I didn't even want to wait the 2 months that it took for this home to get finished. I was like, when can I move in? This is taking too long, even though obviously it wasn't. But I really was thinking about all the clients who have purchased new builds and who are under contract on new builds right now. And I'm like, I don't know how you guys do it. 6 to 8 months just seems like so long, and I would probably be driving myself insane. Another pretty big pricey con of new homes that we definitely have to keep in mind is going to be zero backyard. And when I mean that, backyard landscaping, you still have like space, you'll have a good sized lot. They definitely do have them. I know that some people say, oh, new homes don't have big lots. I feel like that's a myth. I've seen plenty of clients purchase new homes that have great sized lots. So don't take that into consideration when we're talking about the differences between the two here and the pros and cons. Definitely not true when we're talking about that, but the cost of the landscaping, and of course, bigger the backyard, bigger the cost of the landscaping, right? So for example, when I bought this home, I have a pretty decent sized lot. I think it's about maybe 35 feet from the back wall to my block wall, which is a good deep backyard, right? And I think I have like a 45 feet width. Anyways, I'm not a backyard pro or anything like that. It's a big backyard. And when I see a big backyard, I know. It's definitely bigger than my previous one. So anyways, I spent about $12K for, pricing transparency, so you guys can really have an idea of what to expect and the cost of all of this stuff. $12K to do some pavers, rock, irrigation, turf, and then I did a kind of like trash can pull paver thing that connects to my driveway, so I can like leave my trash cans in the back and pull them, not have to pull them through the rocks. Hopefully that makes sense. But anyways, if you guys want to see my entire backyard transformation and how much every single little thing costs, you guys can go to my Instagram. I'll put that up right here so you guys can go ahead and check it out. I have a little highlight on my Instagram where I literally show you guys everything so you can kind of know what to expect there. But $12K for my size backyard. I have a client who's spending over $130,000 for a pool, jacuzzi. What else are they doing? Turf, they're doing a barbecue, they're doing a fire pit, right? Like they're doing all out $130,000. That's a lot of money, right? Not everybody has $130,000 to do that. So that is of course a con. Lots of money on the backyard, but it doesn't necessarily just stop there. You do have to purchase a couple other things potentially. So you're gonna think about blinds, which is another one. You're gonna have to think about washer, dryer, and fridge. Those items do not come with new homes. Not typically. We can, of course, potentially negotiate it. Like my house, for example, it did come with the blinds, washer, dryer, and fridge. So that was a cost that I didn't have to take into account. The only thing I had to take into account was purchasing obviously more furniture for a bigger house, and then also a backyard landscaping situation. Another con of a new home is going to be the areas. So it's not very frequent that you're gonna be able to find a new home in a super, super developed area, and it all depends on when you're getting into that community. So for example, I knew I wanted a new home when I was buying my house, and I did not want to be far away from things. My definition of far away from things is completely different than my husband's definition of far away from things. I took him to a community that I have always loved, beautiful mountain views. Maybe it takes 10-ish minutes to get to like major shopping, but you still have like Popeyes, which is like a drive-through place. You have Starbucks, you have another little coffee spot, you have a gas station, fries, things along those lines, like basic needs. And that was probably 5 minutes away. When I took him there, because my husband is not very familiar, like he works from home, he doesn't get out of the house too much, and he likes to be close to all of his things. He was like, where am I? This is like in the middle of nowhere. There's no way I can live here. Absolutely not. It takes me XYZ time to get to here, here, and here. No. I was like, oh, okay, sounds good. Well, that's kind of how like all new homes are. So let's see what we can get figured out. And then I was able to find my community, which is really close to the 303 and 303 and Cactus/Waddell. It's going to be near that Prasada shopping center, one of my favorite areas to go to even before I lived over here. So I was able to find it, but it was really hard. It was really, really hard, and it definitely limited my options when we're talking about the area. And another thing that you have to keep in mind is you don't know what's going to be built around you always, because there's definitely some empty lots around me that I'm like, I hope that they don't build, a hospital or something. And granted, they're not going to build a hospital in this area because of the sizing and things along those lines. But you never know. And even if it's zoned for one thing, that can be switched to another thing. So it is a little bit worrisome. I know in my previous community, I was a little bit further away from kind of this back area, but there was a huge empty lot. It has been empty since I can remember because I've lived in this area my entire life. So it was empty since I could remember. And all of a sudden in the last year, they popped up this massive apartment building. I couldn't see it from my house, but I'm sure the people that have lived in those houses for 20 years along that back wall are not very happy about the huge apartment complex. At least they probably weren't thinking of it. And if they were thinking of it, they're like, oh, probably won't be a big deal. Maybe it'll be, something small, whatever. But now it's this huge towering apartment complex that's looking into your neighborhood and into your backyards. That doesn't bother everybody, but it would definitely bother me. So you never know what's going to be built around you, and that could be a huge con for a lot of you guys. And that kind of leads us into our next section, which is going to be pros of resale homes. The first pro is going to be the established areas. So when you're purchasing a resale home, typically, not always, but typically we're talking about like homes that are maybe 5, maybe 3 years or older. Those are going to be in a little bit more well-developed areas, and you're going to have tons of shopping and things along those lines, and maybe all the homes are built in your area, which is another con of new homes that I didn't mention is you have to hear construction sometimes depending on where your specific lot is. But regardless, resale homes are typically in more well-developed areas. My previous home, that's something I really loved about it, is it was a resale home when I purchased it, and it had literally every single shopping thing that I could possibly want. And in this specific area where my family has always lived which is North Avondale, Litchfield Park, North Goodyear area, kind of like near Luke Air Force Base. I've always lived there pretty much my entire life, except for a little stint when I lived in Denver, Colorado, but I moved back. I knew if I wanted to be in that specific area, I wasn't going to be able to purchase a new home, especially during that time. So that is one of the reasons why the first home I purchased was not a new home. I wanted to be really close to my family, and to be close to my family, I had to be kind of in that specific area that it was really well developed, and there's no new homes available. So that is something to keep in mind. Another pro of resale homes is just going to be timing. Of course, you can get the spec homes when we're talking about new homes, but if you're really thinking about a resale home in general, another big pro is going to be you can close. I mean, sometimes you can close in 10 days, depending on if you're paying cash or not. But anyways, typically you're gonna see about a 30-day closing on resale homes if you're looking to get in that home and have everything ready to go. And also you don't have to worry about adding blinds. You don't have to worry about doing the backyard landscaping. Like everything is literally ready to go. As soon as you put your furniture in there, then a resale home would be another really good option for you. Another pro is what you see is what you get, and that kind of goes same thing for spec homes. But when we're talking about a new build where, the dirt builds that I've told you guys about, you don't necessarily know exactly what it's going to look like because you're building it from scratch. So it's kind of hard for some people to imagine all of that. With a resale home, it is what it is. You're literally looking at exactly what you're getting. So that's kind of nice. Same thing for the backyard. Like it took me so long to do my backyard because I was like, I can't envision exactly what I want for this backyard. If you are one of those type of people, a resale home would be a really good option for you because you don't even have to envision it. The backyard's already done, and you can kind of just add here and there. Like if you want to add a pool to a resale home, you still can, of course. And you kind of have a little bit more ground to work with when it comes to what it's actually going to look like. Same thing for floor plan. You don't have to worry about like, oh, I changed the third bedroom into a den instead, and now I can't envision it because there was no other houses like that, versus if you buy a resale home, you already know what you're getting. And last pro of resale homes is going to be pricing. So if you're thinking, I don't care about incentives, I just want the lowest price for this home, then I would suggest going with a resale home. And the reason why I say that is because most new home communities, something that they do keep in mind when they're talking about, negotiating the pricing and things along those lines is going to be, how is this going to affect our other homes in this community as we continue to sell it? So if we sold this home for $50,000 less because you're paying cash, or, the numbers just work out for them, and then they go to sell the next house, well, the appraisal is going to be completely off. Now they have this home that just sold for $50,000 less. So with a resale home, you're just dealing with, quote unquote, again, normal people. I don't mean that in a negative way. I consider myself a normal person as well. These people don't care about the other people in the neighborhood, to be frank. They're going to just do what's best for them. And so if selling $50,000 under, which is not necessarily ideal, but every family is a little bit different on what they need and how quick they need it, they can do that and they don't have to think twice about it. So that is something that's kind of nice about resale homes that's different than new homes. Okay, cons of resale homes. First things first is going to be everything's older, and it depends on how old the home is to how old everything is. But typically a lot of those systems are going to be older, whether it be just the appliances, whether it be even how things were installed could be slightly different based off of code just changing consistently. It could be that the roof, hot water heater, AC units, all of those things are older, and that costs a lot of money to replace. And a lot of the times, again, normal people aren't able to, credit you or anything along those lines for all of these big ticket items, because it really cuts into their net that they maybe need for purchasing their next home. And I would say most people, you guys tell me in the comments down below, would you be willing to credit $15,000, $30,000 for your new roof and new HVAC? I personally wouldn't. I'd be like, well, you're buying an older home. That's just something you have to deal with kind of situation. So of course there's a borderline of like what I would and wouldn't be willing to do. Maybe I would give half. Versus, again, a new home, you have a brand new roof. Also, something you have to keep in mind with resale homes is sometimes they can have outdated finishes. So either you're going to be okay with the outdated finishes, or you're going to have to go in there and spend tons of money to go ahead and fix those outdated finishes, versus, let's say, a new home, you're kind of financing those updates. So again, all depends on what your preferences are. If you don't want to do anything when you move into those homes, you don't want to touch one thing, a new home would probably be a better option. If you're willing to do some updates, a resale home, and like location is way more important to you, then maybe a resale home would be a better fit. Another con of resale homes is going to be the interest rate. Not much to explain there, but whenever a new home can give you a 4.75 and a resale home is going to give you a 7.5, I mean, that's going to make a huge difference on your payment. So again, it just depends. Like, I had a client who I showed them tons of new homes and I showed them tons of resale homes. They ended up wanting to move to Verrado. That was the only place that really like sparked their interest. It's a beautiful community, and there's not a ton of new homes in Verrado in the first place. And even the homes that they loved were like the more older historic portion of Verrado, and there's no new homes in there. So that wasn't even going to be an option for them. So that was more important to them than having a lower monthly payment. Everyone's thought process behind that is completely different, and I can understand both sides. Next thing is less customization. Of course, you can move into a resale home and you can customize it. I definitely did that when I purchased my home. I painted everything. Not this current home because this was a new build, but I'm talking about my last house when I bought that. It was a 20-year-old home. It had like orange cabinets, it had laminate countertops, it had the ugliest color on the walls for paint. So anyways, when I went in there, I painted everything, like every single room got painted. I redid the kitchen, I did new countertops, I painted all the cabinets, I added blinds and just a bunch of stuff, right? And it costs a lot of money. And I also redid the backyard. So it ended up probably costing me, I don't know, over 20K to, customize that home. I could have done so many more customizations, but it would have cost me a lot of money, and I wasn't willing to put that investment into the home. If you guys are planning on living there for a really long time, then it might not be a big deal for you. But like if I had it my way, I would have had the texture on the wall changed. I would have had the doors heightened to make them, instead of the 7-foot doors, taller. I would have had all the flooring ripped out, and I had tile throughout, but I really like the like wood looking kind of natural tone for the flooring, and that one had a like an older brown tile. I mean, it was pretty, but I'm just saying if I had it my way, I would have changed a lot, but that would have cost me a lot of money, and that home, that specific home, probably just wouldn't be worth it in that scenario. So again, if you're looking to have it everything your way, it may make more sense to just go ahead and do the dirt build rather than gutting everything and spending tons of money on the inside. Again, preference. I could see it both ways. It's going to really be on a house by house basis. All right, and that's it for the pros and cons. Of course, there's tons more pros and cons that I could probably talk to you guys about. If you ever have questions, my number and email are popping up. I hop on Zoom with all of my clients to go way more in depth on what would be the best route for you guys. Every family is completely different, so we want to make sure that we're making the best decisions based off of things that I would need to learn about you in our Zoom calls. So again, if you want to go ahead and set that up, my number and email are popping up, or even if you guys just have questions and are kind of like in the beginning stages, feel free to reach out to me and I'll help guide you guys the best that I can. Don't forget to thumbs up this video if you felt that it was helpful. Don't forget to subscribe. I post videos every Monday at 5 p.m. And until next time, I'll see you guys later. Bye.